Hey, Astro Lover, welcome back to I Talk to Planets. This is your host, Claire Gallagher, astrologer, author, and cosmic business strategist. We are continuing our Planet Powered Business podcast series. This is part 7. If you have missed the other parts, I highly recommend you listen to them or watch them if you're on YouTube in order because they build on one another. Okay, recap. There are 3 phases to building a Planet Power business. The first phase is to clarify. The second phase is to codify. And the third and final phase is to amplify. And today we are moving on to the final phase. So phase 3 Amplify is all about business growth. It's all about marketing your business, sharing about your business, and growing your business in the form of hiring and collaborating. This is the step that everyone seems to start with when they're building a business, but I hope I've made it clear by now that if you don't go through phases 1, clarify, and phases 2, codify, and you just skip to amplify, it's likely that you're going to amplify a big old mess, and we don't really want to do that. We can do that. It's not the end of the world, but it's not optimal, and it's usually a waste of time. However, phase 3, amplify, is important in its own right. A lot of intuitive entrepreneurs want to skip marketing. A lot of us are a little bit more behind the scenes people. We don't necessarily want to be on social media 24/7. Sometimes we have some insecurities around being seen. So I really want to encourage you that if you skip amplification of your business, it's really just a hobby. It's not a business. So we want to get as comfortable as we can talking about our offers, being in front of new people. And today I'm hopefully going to help you do that in a way that's natural and comfortable for you. I hear from a lot of intuitive entrepreneurs that not only do they hate being on social media, they're really exhausted by constant content creation. And I would say that this exhaustion and this cringe that you might feel is probably because your marketing strategy does not match your astrology chart. If you want to talk about your offers consistently, and that's what you need to do if you want to make sales, you got to remind people all the time what it is that you have to offer. You've got to do it in a way that's already natural and easy for you. It can't be something that requires a lot of energy. You can do that for a while, but then you'll just crash and burn. It needs to be something that's just easy for you. How do you match your marketing with your astrological blueprint? You're going to start with the planet Mercury. In astrology, Mercury is the planet that describes how you communicate naturally and easily. And again, if you want your marketing to feel natural and easy, it needs to jive with how you communicate in daily life. So a lot of you might be pressuring yourself to do video because that's what some expert told you works. But it's probably exhausting your Mercury and not working because it depletes you before you even sit down to record. Or maybe some of you are hiding behind a blog post and not posting on social at all, not showing your face at all, when your natal Mercury is actually really dynamic and most magnetic on camera. So the point is, any type of marketing strategy can work for you if you commit to it. But in order to commit to it, it needs to match your natal Mercury. As always, we need to share a little astrological disclaimer. What I'm sharing today is an oversimplification and generalization because I have to do that in order to make this a digestible podcast. Your chart, though, is extremely unique, and there could be a lot more to your marketing story than what I'm able to share today. So with that out of the way, let's move on. So in order to create an astro-informed marketing strategy, you want to know everything you possibly can about your natal Mercury. And this is going to be a callback to part 2 of our Planet Powered Business series, where we talked about planetary condition. As a recap, planetary condition is essentially a big checklist of factors to assess a planet and kind of give it a grade. The higher the grade the planet gets, the more functional and effective it is. The lower the grade the planet gets, the more challenged and ineffective it might be, and the more help it might need. So We talked about this in detail in part 2, but essentially you want to assess your Mercury from top to bottom. You want to know what zodiac sign it's in. You want to know what house it's in. You want to know if it's moving forward or backward, if it's retrograde or direct. You want to know if it's fast or slow. You want to know if it's visible or invisible, and you want to know what aspects it makes or receives. All of these data points are going to inform your unique marketing strategy. But today, for the sake of simplicity, we're going to focus on the zodiac sign placement, specifically the element correlated with your natal Mercury zodiac sign. So the elements are fire, air, earth, and water. And we're going to combine that with a type of content marketing that is most suitable and easy for that particular element. So if you're unfamiliar, just a quick refresh, the fire signs are Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. So if you have your Mercury in one of those signs, it's a fire Mercury. The earth signs are Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. The air signs are Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. And the water signs are Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. Now, again, each zodiac sign is associated with an element, and each element is associated with a temperature, so hot or cold. Heat is fast and dynamic, and it speeds things up. It moves up and out if it had a direction. When we translate this into everyday language, into Mercury language, heat is more extroverted in a very general sense. And the two elements that are hot are fire and air. So if you have a Mercury in a fire sign or an air sign, it's on the hot side. Now, I'm also going to say that fire tends to be more visual and air tends to be more verbal, but that's just a generalization, but I wanted to drop that in there. Now, the cooler elements are earth and water. When something's cold, think about like when you're cold and you shiver and you hold yourself like this, cold moves inward and it slows things down. So in terms of Mercury, it's a little bit more introverted in a very general sense. So your Mercury is somewhere on the spectrum from very cold to very hot. And we can also put different types of content on the spectrum from very cold to very hot too. What makes a piece of content hot or cold? In my opinion, it determines how much you have to show your face, how outward facing it is, if it's live or if it's asynchronous, how much energy it takes, how much engagement it requires, and other things like that. Very generally, if you have a cooler Mercury, you're probably going to be more comfortable making cooler forms of content. And if you have a hot Mercury, you're probably going to be more comfortable making hotter forms of content. Now, again, this is an oversimplification because there's a lot of other factors to Mercury's condition than just its zodiac sign. But this is what we're doing for today's episode. However, just as an example, a retrograde Mercury is going to be slightly cooler than a direct Mercury, and an invisible Mercury will be slightly cooler than a visible Mercury. A Mercury with, say, an aspect to Mars or Jupiter is going to be slightly hotter than one with an aspect to Saturn, which would be cooler. And a Mercury in a shady house, so 2, 6, 8, and 12, will be more cooler and more private than a Mercury in an angular house, 1, 4, 7, and 10. So just remember that this is a holistic assessment. So if you don't 100% resonate with the type of content that I'm associating with your Mercury, there's a lot more astrology where this came from. All right, so let's talk about examples of cool content versus hot content. When I say cool in terms of content marketing, I'm really thinking about long-form content that sticks around for a long time on the internet and works its magic a little bit more slowly. So a really great example of one of the coolest forms of content is a book. A book takes a really long time to create, but it sticks around for a really long time. It has a long shelf life. Now, the results of marketing with a book may take longer to manifest, but they will manifest in droves eventually. I would also put ebooks on this side of the spectrum. Next is website. And you might think website isn't a piece of content, but I beg to differ. A website is the home of your business, ideally. It describes exactly what you do, who you do it for, and why, and how you do it. Now, This is something that I've noticed a lot of entrepreneurs don't actually have, especially intuitive entrepreneurs. Y'all are sharing on social. You might have a booking link. You might mostly be booking in DMs. You need a website, especially if you have a cooler Mercury. You need a home for your business. And websites, especially like blogs, they're going to give you what's called SEO or search engine optimization. So when people are searching for a tarot reader or an astrologer or what have you in Google, you will ideally pop up on the screen. Other forms of cooler content include newsletter opt-ins. So this is usually when you give a piece of content in exchange for someone's email address when they subscribe to your newsletter. Like I already mentioned, a blog is a really perfect piece of cool content. It takes a little longer to develop. It might take a little while to rank on Google, but it's going to last for a long time. And you don't have to show your face, right? Unless you want to. And then, of course, there's email marketing, which we've already discussed in terms of opt-ins. So if you don't have a newsletter and you have a cool Mercury, I highly recommend getting that started. What about hot content? So hot content kind of starts happening around podcasts. So if you have an audio only podcast, this is kind of a sweet bridge between cool content and hot content. I would say that any type of video content is really hot. Asynchronous video content, so like pre-recorded video content, is not as hot or as energy requiring as live video content. I would say any type of like high frequency social media marketing would belong to hot. So that would include things like posting daily, posting multiple times a day, or doing something like a challenge for your followers to play along with. And then at the tip of hot content, and it's not really content unless you would record it simultaneously, is a live event. So that face-to-face contact requires a lot of heat. So I want you to play with placing your natal Mercury somewhere along this content spectrum and see what type of content matches closest. And then check in with your business's realistic needs and your body, of course, and see if there's something around there that you can commit to weekly, ideally. So honestly, I think each business needs to have a mix of cold and hot marketing. But again, in order to get that mixture and that sweet spot, you need to start somewhere, and you might as well start somewhere realistic. So your natal Mercury's marketing channel. If you want to show up in multiple places, that's super smart from a marketing strategy standpoint. I highly recommend sticking with your natal Mercury's ideal marketing channel first, and then repurposing that content for different channels. So for example, I start with my podcast first. My podcast is my root, and then from there, I make a YouTube video, I make a blog, and I make social posts from that point. But it all comes from the podcast. I want you to do the same with your blog or your newsletter or your social posts, like whatever your root is, have branches that come out from there. Let's do a few Mercury examples and match them to their ideal type of content. So our first example is Mercury in Aries. It's in the 7th house. It's quick, it's moving fast, it's under the beam, so it is invisible. It's square Jupiter and it's trine Uranus. So I want to make sure you understand that when I say hot, hot can also mean quick, efficient, and frequent posting. This hot Mercury could blog, it could write a book, it can do anything it wants. However, it may not feel like something it wants to do on the day-to-day marketing basis. Now, a marketing channel that might really resonate with this person and this very hot Mercury is a channel that's efficient, no nonsense, that allows this person to say things frequently and quickly, but that doesn't necessarily need them to be seen or visible all the time. Remember, this Mercury is under the beams, so it's so close to the sun that it actually can't be seen by the naked eye, and that usually translates to us not necessarily always wanting to be seen on camera. So this person actually prefers the channel Threads. They love Threads because they can just get on there real quick, type out a little post, and get a lot of engagement. However, they also have a weekly content commitment in their newsletter. And from there, they can pull out a lot of threads posts. Let's do another example. How about Mercury in Leo in the ninth house? It's direct. It's slow though, it's conjunct Mars, and it's square Saturn. So this is a mixed bag of cool and hot. We are starting with Mercury in a fire sign of Leo, but because of its slow motion and its square to Saturn, it's slightly cooler than the average Mercury in Leo. This person is me. This person prefers podcasts, audio only, but has stretched their Mercury into video podcasts and repurposes that into other channels like blogs and social posts. Let's do one more. How about Mercury in Taurus in the eighth house? It's direct, it's fast, it's conjunct Mars and opposite Saturn. So Mercury in Taurus is Mercury in an earth sign, which is naturally cooler. It's also in the eighth house, which is cooler. It's direct and fast. This makes it a little warmer. It's conjunct Mars, so even warmer, but it's opposite Saturn. So there's a little bit of a sluggishness here. So I would say if we add up all of these factors, Mercury in Taurus in this chart is hotter than the typical Mercury in Taurus. So if we wanted to match Mercury to content marketing, ideally, this person would have a regular, cool type of marketing that they repurpose into hotter forms of content. So their root is going to be a cool form and their branches will be hot forms. So an example would be a newsletter or a blog that they repurpose into maybe an Instagram post every week. If you want to commit to consistent marketing, commit to your natal Mercury. This is the planet that is going to inform the channel that is the most sustainable and natural for you. You know, all the experts out there say that we need to market consistently, and I tend to agree with that, but I don't agree that you need to make yourself really uncomfortable and put your face all over the internet if you don't want to do that. Instead, embrace your natal chart, embrace your natal Mercury, and come up with a marketing strategy that is sustainable and realistic for that planet. Okay, I'll talk to you next week.